thanking the deputies from the Independent for Change group for bringing forward the Industrial and Provident Society Bill. Sinn Féin is very happy to lend our support to the bill. It is an important piece of legislation which will have a significant impact on the development of Ireland's cooperative sector. We welcome the amendment to reduce the number of members needed to establish a cooperative from 7 to 3. From a number of engagements we've had ourselves with stakeholders in the sector, we were very continuously told that this was a major barrier to the establishment of smaller co-ops. Sinn Féin shares the views of the deputies in the Independent for Change group that the development of our cooperative sector is vital to the development of a fairer economy. If we are serious about addressing equality in our society, then we must deal with the inequality of ownership which exists in our economy. Cooperatives offer an alternative model of business which is focused on workers' outcomes, workers' well-being and community sustainability. They retain economic power at both a local and regional level and allow for community wealth building. Sinn Féin is committed to developing our cooperative sector, particularly our worker cooperative sector. These are cooperatives in which workers of the enterprise own at least 51% of the shares. Across Europe, worker cooperatives have been found to be more productive, more resilient and provide greater benefits to their workers, communities and local societies. Workers' cooperative businesses are more likely to pay the living wage, have lower pay differentials between the top and lowest earner, they use fewer zero-hour contracts and have shown exemplary degrees of corporate social responsibility with a strong commitment to sustainability. Scotland is quickly becoming one of the world's leading countries in the development of workers' cooperatives. In 2005, the Scottish Government decided to establish Cooperative Development Scotland, a subsidiary of Scottish Enterprise, tasked with the responsibility of developing Scotland's cooperative sector. In 2012, it made the decision to focus exclusively on the development of workers' cooperatives and has seen a substantial threefold increase in the number of workers' cooperatives. The Scottish Government chose to actively develop the sector through the Cooperative Development Scotland, coupled with supportive legislation. A quote from John Clark, Chairman of the Sturgeon Workers Co-op Steering Group, sums up their approach. We have a choice to be passive and allow the development of a supportive environment for workers' co-ops to happen without industry input, or to take a proactive approach and seek to actively influence that how that environment evolves. We believe the proactive approach creates the prospect of making Scotland the best country in the world to establish and grow workers' co-ops. Scotland, as we see, is now clearly reaping these rewards. Elsewhere in Europe, there are 800,000 workers in the Italian worker co-op sector. Spain is home to the largest workers' cooperative, Mondragon, as my colleague Deputy Bruin referred to, which is 80,000 workers and in 2015 had sales of €11 billion. The workers' cooperative sector makes up 13% of Sweden's GDP, 16% of Switzerland's, 21% of Finland's and 4% in France. For many key stakeholders, a key barrier to the development of a workers' co-op sector has been down to an absence of state policy supportive of the sector, and even the existence of legislation which makes it more difficult to establish cooperatives, such as the Irish rule requiring you to have 7 members to establish a co-op. That's why in 2014 the French government introduced the Social Cooperative Law, which specifically introduced legislation supportive of the worker co-op sector. In Italy, they have the Macara and Brasevi laws, and in Spain, the Pegeo law, to assist worker co-ops. Despite the many benefits of workers' co-op model to workers in their communities, Ireland has yet to develop its own worker co-op sector in any considerable way. To date, the workers' cooperative sector in Ireland can be described as undeniably small and arguably much underdeveloped. This could arguably be put down to 2 reasons. Firstly, the lack of specific legislation to workers' cooperatives, and secondly, an absence of government support for would-be and existing cooperatives. The lack of cooperative development is particularly disappointing when you consider that throughout Ireland's history, agriculture and financial credit union co-ops have made a significant contribution to our society. What Sinn Féin wants to see is the success of both these cooperative sectors replicated in development of our own worker cooperative sector. Similar to the 1997 Credit Union Act, we should continue to progress legislation like this bill in order to support and assist the sector with supportive legislation. For this reason, Sinn Féin will look to bring forward an amendment to tonight's bill at committee stage to introduce a simple definition of a workers' co-op which could be inserted into the Industrial and Provident Societies Act in order to provide the sector with further supports and protections. In 1998, the Irish Government did attempt to develop the cooperative sector through the establishment of the Cooperative Development Unit. This state agency was devoted to the development of workers' co-ops, and it did result in the growth of workers' co-ops. From 47 enterprises in 1991 to 73 in 1992, and again between 1996 and 1998 there was another spike from 66 to 82. There was also argued odds that the unit would have been even more successful in developing the sector if it were not for the absence of a supportive legislative framework at the same time. Disappointingly, however, Fianna Fáil government closed down the CDU, ending all soft and hard support for the development of workers' cooperatives. Since its closure, there has been no provider of support or information specific to workers' co-ops, something which has been central to the development of the co-op sector in Scotland, France, Italy and Spain, as I explained earlier. In keeping with the 2002 ILO recommendations 193, Sinn Féin would like to see an environment in which cooperatives enjoy equal treatments with other types of enterprise. Government should create an enabling environment and facilitate access to support services. Government should provide policy and a legal environment conducive to the creation of worker cooperatives, grant support, develop partnerships with co-ops. The success stories of Scotland, France, Italy and Spain all provide evidence that there is an alternative way to develop and sustain our economy. Sinn Féin wants a sustainable economy, not one driven just by profit, but maintained by secure jobs and broad benefits shared by greater society. This is achievable through a cooperative economy. In order for this to happen, legislation such as this bill is essential. In conclusion, I want to thank Deputy Daly and her colleagues in the Independent for Change for bringing forward this bill, and Sinn Féin are very happy to support it.